Salvate discipuli. All right, here we are for our last installment of online Latin for the 2020 year, y'all. I hope it's like the last one forever. Like, I'm the introvert of all introverts, but I'm ready to be back with people again. This has been a long time. So anyway, this is our last chapter together. We are on chapter 29 today, which is on page 241. So go ahead and look in your books on 241. You will notice at the top of the page that our chart is for third declension neuter nouns. And you may be thinking, hang on, Magistra, we've already done third declension nouns. I very clearly remember doing third declension nouns because you taught us the chant that Emma used to do, ex is, eme, es, ibus, es, ibus. We definitely did third declension nouns. And you are correct. We have done third declension nouns, but what we have not done are third declension neuter nouns. Remember how the third declension nouns that we've already done, they were all masculine or feminine. And so they give you in parentheses after the vocabulary word, they'll either give you an M or an F to tell you whether it's a masculine noun or a feminine noun. Well, this week we are going to learn our third declension neuter nouns. And so I hope y'all can hear me. My husband is right outside the window talking to a neighbor, and Millie is singing it up in the shower right now. And so I have no idea how this is going to turn out. Anyway, it's all crazy. I'm sorry. I hope she'll be embarrassed if y'all can hear her. Anyway, okay, so third declension neuter nouns. Well, this is what you know from your regular third declension nouns, right? From your masculine and feminine. Y'all have learned ex, is, eme, es, ibus, es, ibus. But since these are neuter nouns, they have to follow the neuter rule. So do you remember what your neuter rule says? The neuter rule says that the nominative and the accusative endings have to match. So, and remember, this X doesn't really mean X. It might, it could actually end with a literal X, but it could be an S, it could be an M. It's like a variable in math where it could stand for anything. So, but whatever we have up here that the X represents, if we have it in the nominative, and it is a neuter noun, we also have to have it down here in the accusative. So instead of the EM ending that we typically see for third declension, we're going to go ahead and change it to an X because the neuter rule says, hey, these two have to match, okay, nominative and accusative. Now, if we look in our plural column, they already match, don't they? We have S and S, so you're probably thinking, oh good, that's the only change there's going to be. No, because remember there's two parts to the neuter rule. The first part tells us that these endings have to be the same, nominative and accusative, but it also tells us that in the plural column, it's probably going to be a short A. Like, I think it's always going to be a short A. So we're going to change it from ES to A. And these are going to be the endings for your third declension nouns when they're neuter. So we have ex, is, ex, a, ibus, a, ibus. Okay? So just because they're following the neuter rule, we have to make those couple of changes to them. So, all right, let's go ahead and chant with him on page 241. And I just missed it. Man, I just talked a little bit too long. Let me turn my speaker back on again. Brevity is not my gift. I am a very verbose person. Okay, so let's get my phone and get it set up. Here we go. We are on 241.
Here we are in chapter 29, where we will chant through the third declension neuter forms. And this pronunciation will work for both pronunciation systems, classical or ecclesiastical. Ex, is, ex, e. Ex, is, ex, e. A, ibus, a, ibus.
A, ibus, a, ibus.
Ex, is, ex, e.
Ex, is, ex, e.
A, ibus, a, ibus.
A, ibus, a, ibus.
And this is chapter 29 with the classical pronunciation. Dico, dicere, dixi, dictum.
Dico, dicere, dixi, dictum.
I speak to speak, I spoke spoken.
I speak to speak, I spoke spoken.
Pono, ponere, posui, positum.
Pono, ponere, posui, positum.
I put, to put, I put, putted. What do you say put in the past tense?
I put.
Put is all.
Put, it's put.
I put, to put, I put.
I put, to put, I put.
I place, to place, I placed.
I placed, to place, I placed.
Surgo, surgere, surrexi, surrectum.
Surgo, surgere, surrexi, surrectum.
I rise, to rise, I rose.
I rise, to rise, I rose.
I get up, to get up, I got up.
I get up, to get up, I got up.
We were, weeksy, weektum.
We were, weeksy, weektum.
I live, to live, I lived.
I live, to live, I lived.
Winko, winkere, wiki, weektum.
Winko, winkere, wiki, weektum.
I conquer, to conquer, I conquered.
I conquered, to conquer, I conquered.
Litus, litoris, shore, beach.
Litoris, shore, beach.
Flumen, river.
Fluminous, river.
Os, oris, mouth, face.
Os, oris, mouth, face.
Corpus, corporis, body.
Corpus, corporis, body.
Crimen, criminis, crime accusation.
Criminis, crime accusation.
Latus, lateris, side.
Latus, lateris, side.
Nomen, nominis, name.
Nomen, nominis, name. Okay, hang on. I have got to stop Millie because she's really singing her heart out. So hang on. Hey, Millie! I'm recording for Latin. Yeah. Okay. So, that was really funny. I don't know if y'all could hear her or not, but her reaction was pretty funny.
Millie, that means stop singing!
Okay, so derivatives. There are a lot of derivatives that are pretty obvious for this, but we'll go ahead and go through the list. The first one, dicere, it means to speak. And so I think dictate would obviously be a really good one. And I think even dictionary, because those are the words we use when we speak. So I think that's probably a good derivative as well. To put or to place, maybe to position something. If you position it in a certain place, I could see that if you look at the third and the fourth forms, posui, positum. To rise or to get, we just celebrated Easter. So definitely resurrect, that surge, especially if you look at surrexi, surrectum, you can see resurrection. Even a storm surge, right? That's where the wave rises and it can crash into the shore and wipe out buildings and stuff. Anyway, wiwa, wiwere, to live. It looks a lot like wiwus, wiwa, wiwum, which was the adjective form, alive. So I think that you'll remember it, but you could see vital, right? If you go to the doctor and they take your vitals whenever you're getting signed in, they're looking at all of your signs of life, making sure that you're in good shape. The next one, to conquer, winko, winkere, wiki, weekdom. Well, if you look at wiki, weekdom, you could see victory. And if you're the one who conquered, then you were victorious. So that's a good derivative. But there is a really famous phrase that I'm pretty sure was Julius Caesar. And it's, I came, I saw, I conquered. And you'll see that as wane, weedy, wiki. I came, I saw, I conquered. So this is the word, one of those three words that's in that phrase. Okay, and then when we look at the nouns, we have litus, litoris, shore or beach. I don't know that I see a derivative there, but if you just want to remember it, I will tell you this word is going to be all over Primer C. When you get into the Primer C book, we tell a story the whole year long, and it's not like the fill in the blank story that you're doing in this book. It's like your homework is you translate, I don't know, 8 sentences, something like that every week. So it's like it's adding the new chapter in their adventures, and you're following a captain and his sailors, and we're just looking at all of their adventures that they have, finding these islands and being attacked by people and all this stuff. So obviously shore and beach are going to be in there a lot. So commit it to memory. If it helps you to maybe think of a lighthouse because it looks sort of like Litoris, or maybe think of litter on the beach, which is ugly. It's not a derivative, but it may help you remember it. And you will want to remember that one. The next one, flumen, fluminous, river. You could maybe think of flow or fluid, and I think those are good derivatives. Mouth or face, os, oris. I think for oris, I could definitely see oral. I can't think of another derivative using the os. I bet Rachel Bullock could. I bet her anatomy could really come in handy for that, because I can't think of one. Okay, the next one, corpus, corporus. Have you ever been to Corpus Christi, which is farther down south if you go along the coast of Texas? But Corpus Christi literally means body of Christ. So it's kind of a cool name for a city. As far as derivatives, a corpse, I mean, that's obviously a body, a dead body. So that's a good derivative, though. It might help you to remember it. The next one, crimen, criminus. You can think of a criminal crime, which is its meaning. Those are both derivatives. Latus lateris. Again, with my anatomy, if I was better at it. But I think if you work out on the sides, like if you're working out your abs and you get the ones that are on the sides, I think those are called your laterals, I think. But I'll tell you this, I'm not the one to go to for workout information, so that might be wrong. Okay, and then the last one, nomen, nominus. I hope you have noticed that when I make you handouts, it says nomen at the top of the page with a line where you put your name. So I hope that you know by now that nomen means name, for sure. Okay, so as far as homework goes, oh wait, not quite homework yet. As far as your grammar lesson goes, we really talked about it already when I showed you this. I mean, basically, you just need to remember that for a neuter noun, you have to follow the neuter rule. So nominative and accusative need to be the same, and it's going to be a short A whenever it's in the plural form. So there you go. And then the only other thing they have, if you will look on page 244, you have, probably like 2/3 of the way down here. You see how you've got some sentences in bold? What the author is trying to show you, it's sort of funny because the verbs that he's talking to us about are not even introduced in this chapter, but yet he's given us a lesson on them. So that's a little bit weird, but it's an important lesson. So we need to take just a second to talk about it. So you'll notice that the heading for this area is infinitives. And if we think about what an infinitive is, remember in Latin, it's our second principal part. I love, to love, I loved, loved. So it's that to form of your verb, right? T-O, whatever, to skip, to jump, to sing, to walk, to chant, to love, to kill, to whatever. So that's what the infinitive is. Well, there are certain verbs in our English language, this is true as well, but also in Latin. There are certain verbs that don't work by themselves. And two of these words are addressed in this chapter. So for example, if I went up to you and I said, Laurel, you really ought. Laurel would be like, Miss Bonvillain, that makes no sense at all. I really ought to what? Do you hear how it needs that infinitive after it? You don't just say you ought. You say you ought to eat vegetables. You say you ought to drive safely. It needs an infinitive after it to complete a thought. We don't just use ought on its own. We use ought plus an infinitive. Okay? So that's one of those words, and that's the first sentence on that page where you have, that's not the sentence they use, but do you see the verb that they use? They have debet. That's the word for ought. It also means owe, and you can kind of see our English word debt from there, so you can get why it means owe, but it also means ought. So if you see a form of this debeo, debere, it's probably going to mean ought, and it's probably going to have an infinitive right after it, which would mean an RE ending. So you'll be able to see that right away because of the RE ending. So ought to whatever, okay? And then the next one, the next sentence they give you is another word that usually we have to have an infinitive with, and that is dare. So again, if I said Grace waits, you dare? Grace Waits would say, I dare what, Miss Bonvillain? I don't know what you mean. You didn't make any sense because you didn't finish your thought. Yeah, well, Grace Waits would be correct. I would have to complete it with an infinitive. I would say, Grace Waits, you dare to finish your Latin ahead of schedule? You genius, right? I could say something like that. Or I could say, Grace Waits, you dare to call me old? How dare you, Grace Waits? She would never do that. She's very sweet. But do you see how you have to have an infinitive in order to complete that verb? It doesn't stand on its own. Okay? So, in the Latin for that, that is this one, audet. So if you have, it's audire, I don't remember the first one, but it's going to be an audire. And if you have a form of that, which means dare, then it's going to have an infinitive right after it. It'll have an RE word right after it. Okay, so just be on the lookout for those as you go through your homework. If you see those two particular words, ought or dare, it's probably going to have an infinitive right after it. Okay? And that's really it for new stuff. So, homework. This week, we are going to do the next installment of your story, which is on 243. So, do that. And then we will do your memory worksheet, which is on 245, right there. And this is short translation worksheet. Translation worksheet is on 246. Heads up on two things. Here's the first. I want you to look at sentence number 1. You see how the very last word is eunt? And you're going to be like, I am pretty sure we have never learned this word at all. Well, we have, but it's an irregular verb. So, if you look on your verb cheat sheet, lots of irregular ones are on your verb cheat sheet. That's why I made a cheat sheet for them, because they're irregular and they will trip you up. So if we look at our third chart down, eo ire iwi itum. It's the verb to go. And sure enough, if we look at our third person plural, we see eunt, and we see that it means they go. All right? So I told you where it is, and I told you the translation, but I'm going to let you figure out the parsing for it, which shouldn't be difficult at all. Okay, so that's sentence number 1. And then this one, now I'm going to go ahead and tell you because it gives people trouble all the time. Look at sentence number 2. Do you see how on sentence number 2, you have your third word in that sentence says ire? And I know y'all are going to go, oh yeah, in Primer A, I remember when he chanted it, he was really dramatic, and he said, ira, ira, anger, anger. No, that's ira, I-R-A. This is ire, I-R-E, and sure enough, that is the same verb that we just looked at in sentence 1, eo ire, I go, to go. Okay, so that's the verb to go. Right there. And I think you'll be good on that page other than those two things. Okay, and then the last thing is page 248, which is your quiz. Y'all, that's it. Like, not only is that it for this week, that's it for this year. When you finish your homework this week, you're done with Latin for the year. I am so proud of you. I can't express it enough how unbelievably proud I am of you for the work that you did while we were still meeting together, for the contributions that you made in class and the way y'all would answer together and share together and play our games. Miss Kitchen and I are super proud of you. And we are super sad that our year ended the way it did, because it's obviously a lot more fun to be together and play games together and all of that. But I'm really proud of your hard work, super proud. And also, I told you, I don't know, 2 weeks ago or something like that, that there were 2 tests that got lost. And I contacted the National Latin Exam. They found them and they sent me the scores. So I have everybody's scores now for the Latin exam. And I think that the next time you see me will be in person. Yay! And it will be the day that we all come back together and the seniors pass the anchor down to the juniors and we hand out Latin awards and all of that stuff. So so I know how you did, but I'm gonna keep you in suspense a little bit longer so that I can award you properly in person. And anyway, all right, I love you guys. I miss you, and I am anxious to see you again whenever it happens, one day very soon this summer. So all right, I love you guys. Walete.